skipping and hopping on the moon shadow, moon shadow, moon shadow, moon shadow, moon shadow, moon shadow, moon shadow.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful, Steve. Thank you. This guy's singing some of my favorite songs. Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. It's nice to see all of you on this wonderful rainy day here in Austin, Texas. Some of you were here last week, and we were doing Hawaiian shirts again. We're back. We switched. We went from plaid back to Hawaii, and now we're into sweaters. So it's definitely sweater weather. And I'm loving it, actually. You know, the thing that I love about it is, coming from the Northwest, I know it's not going to last for 9 months. But it's nice to have today, actually. Well, we've been having an exploration over the last few weeks of living the creative life and learning how we can really align ourselves more with the source of our being in that process of creativity and being creative beings, and expressing ourselves as creative beings. And I'll tell you, for myself, there's been some wonderful insights and awarenesses that have come to me about some of the things that we've been talking about, and then getting some lessons and stuff. And one of the things that I wanted to say is that it really is valuable to me to recognize and acknowledge that we're coming up on a wonderful holiday, one of my favorite holidays.
Oh, yeah.
Thanksgiving to me is one of the most wonderful holidays. And I think it's no accident that Thanksgiving comes before Christmas. I think it's important. It's an important metaphysical understanding that you don't really get all the benefits of Christmas until you really are in that place of gratitude.
Yeah.
You don't really experience the blessings and the goods and the presents, of course. Gratitude comes before the receiving. And I'm convinced that there's a creative process in the energy of creation, and that in the energy of gratitude. And so when we're looking at our lessons this week, we're going to talk a little bit about this idea of how gratitude really plays into the whole creative process. And I was thinking about that and came across a story. There was a son was kind of giving a little sage advice to his, the father was giving a little sage advice to his young teenage son. And he's saying to him, live each day as you would going down a highway. It's important to glance occasionally to your left and to your right, but keep your mind always on the goal of where you're wanting to go. And go slowly and steadfastly and enjoying each passing moment. And the view at the end of the highway will serve as a really fitting climax for this wonderful journey that you're taking. And the young said, "Gosh, Dad, great. Does that mean I can borrow the car?" Different perspective, perhaps. So the attitude of gratitude, I think, is really what we're talking about. The attitude of gratitude does more to bring about results than any one single technique. Combining gratitude with definite pictures and affirmations produce guaranteed results. Gratitude builds your faith quickly and easily. It keeps your mind on the goal and your foot on the path. It eliminates the necessity to overcome any obstacle that may stand in your way, because gratitude will eliminate the obstacles. This is a quote from Ann Kunith. So I really was thinking about that. There was a big brother who said to the little brother, he said, "Mom said I should give you these things that I outgrew." Anybody sound familiar to anybody? Yeah. And the little brother says, "Great. Hand-me-downs again?" And the older brother says, "Man, you should be grateful." And he says, "Well, I am grateful. I'm grateful you're not my older sister." Anyway, I think there was a teenager with a nose ring and baggy clothing and spiked hair, and said to a friend, I don't really like dressing this way, but it keeps my parents from dragging me everywhere they go. This week we're talking about, when we've been talking about the creative process and looking at metaphysically the story of the 7 days of creation. And one of the things we've been working with is the Creative Life, 7 Keys to Your Inner Genius by Eric Butterworth. Really very, very profound work, in my opinion. And really a great explanation of how the creative process works in us. And it really is a great exploration of this understanding. And one of the things that Eric reminds us of is that the creation story really is not intended to be history. It really is intended to give us a lesson of how the creative process works in life. And it's a great metaphor for that. So we're looking at the 4th day. And the 4th day, God said, "Let there be light in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night." And he goes on to say, "And God made the 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night." God created then the sun and the moon. And so symbolically, the sun and the moon are representative of something going on in the creative process, but they're also representative of something that goes on in our consciousness. And so we're exploring how consciousness in us is creating. He goes on and said, "The sun and the moon, 2 great lights in the continuum of the creation story." In discussing these lights, I would like to remind you that the Bible writers were using imagery to tell their tale. So it's really a way of helping us to archetypically understand something that goes on in all of us in this creative process. And so we started looking at the symbolism of the sun and the moon. And one of the things that Eric says, and he quotes Charles Fillmore, he says that Charles Fillmore said that basically the sun represents our understanding, and the moon represents our will. And I got to really thinking about that and reflecting on that a bit. And as I reflected on that and meditated on it, I kind of got some awarenesses about what, to me, those 2 things represent in terms of the creative process. And as I began to reflect on the understanding, to me, it was a matter of getting clarity. So we talked about in the beginning, let there be light. Light really is that awareness that we are creative beings, that it is the awareness that we're in the process of creating in this moment, right? And then the 2nd day was, let there be firmament in the heavens. Remember that? We talked about the firmament in the heavens being our faith, our faculty of faith, and that's that ability to bring into a form, bring things into, and to bring about those things that we hold our energy and our faith toward. And that faith is really something that we always have, but it's pivotal. It depends upon what we're focusing on. And we're going to explore that a little more. And then last week we talked about the importance of imaging, the I-image, the importance of our imagination in the creative process. We're always using our imagination, aren't we? We're using it all the time. Sometimes we're imaging things that we don't necessarily want to bring into our experience. That's called worry. We all know that one, right? And so part of our waking up is to recognize that we have the ability to pay attention to how we're using that faculty of our imagination. And one of the highest forms of that we talked about is this idea of not necessarily just imaging and using the law of attraction to draw into our experience things or having, which is, it's fine. It's actually a very good practice. I consider it a very good practice in using our imagination to do that. But more than anything, it's about really I-imaging. Eric talks about this idea of really focusing on our imagination, on seeing ourselves in our wholeness, seeing ourselves in our possibility, seeing ourselves in our unique potential, and that divine nature coming through us in a way that really does expand the possibilities of our expressing even a greater good in our lives, and that coming through us in a beautiful way, in a very unique way. So this week, we're talking about a process that has to do with two lights. And the first light is the sun, and to me, of course, that represents another aspect of light. And the sun being considered the source of light here in this world, out in this world in many ways. And so when I look at that idea of light, what to me really comes through is there's a power within us that we can use to focus our awareness and our attention. And as we focus our awareness and our attention, that's an important step in the creative process, recognizing where we are and how we're focusing our attention. I thought about this word attention. And as I began to think about it, I looked up what the word attention means. And it means the process where a person concentrates on some features of environment to the relative exclusion of others. When we look at the creative process and we talk about the law of attraction, one of the things that is often quoted is that where attention goes, energy flows. You guys heard that before?
Yes.
And so what we're looking at is what is it we're illuminating? What are we putting our awareness on? What are we putting our attention on? Does that make sense? So metaphysically, we're looking at the power, the ability to focus. Focus, again, is kind of a similar word that has to do with attention. And so in the creative process, we need to be conscious and aware of our attention. Where is our attention? Where's your attention right now? Hopefully it's on me, but that, it could be that your attention in some ways is on me, and it could be that you're writing out your grocery list, or or you're thinking about it's okay. I mean, I'm not just asking people to be conscious and aware. Where's the attention? And notice that as we're focusing our attention, we are actually sending and receiving energy in that process. So part of that step in the creative process is to really pay attention and notice to what we are paying attention to and what we're putting our energy toward. As I begin to explore this, it occurs to me that the sun represents this ability to shine light on, to illuminate, to focus on, to pay attention to. And the moon, to me, really has more to do with, and Charles Fillmore says it has to do with the will. And I thought about that for a while because I know that sometimes, and Eric kind of brings this out, that sometimes when we think about will, we often think about will as, just forcefulness and making things happen and being willful. And he says that's really not how it's being presented. It really has to do more with an understanding of willingness. And I thought about that also. The power and the faculty of our will really has to do with the ability to choose, doesn't it? And it has the ability to choose, but it also has a counter side to it, which is the ability to allow. And there's two pieces here I see. One is our attention really has to do with our choices also. And then the other side is a reflection of that, which is our willingness, our allowing. And as I began to explore this idea, there's a great subtle awarenesses about the choices that we're making, the way we're focusing our awareness, the way we're focusing our attention, and our allowing whatever we are focusing our attention on to come into being, to not resist what is, or not resist what can be, or not resist the potential, and to allow that to unfold. As I began to look at that, I realized that the word intention comes in a lot when you think about the law of attraction. When we talk about the law of attraction, there's oftentimes a lot of teaching on this understanding of our intentions and the importance of our intentions. And as we look at this idea of intention, it really has to do with an anticipated outcome. It says that an anticipated outcome that is intended or guides your planned actions. I thought about that. Wow. So to me, our intentions are what is it that we are anticipating to come about. Does that make sense? And so we're working with these energies of attention and intention. and to bring about something. And we're doing that actually all the time. You realize that? You always have some intention. We're in that process of intending consistently. And so part of our waking up is to recognize what are our underlying intentions in life. And where we run into difficulties and challenges is that we sometimes confuse our desires and our intentions. Now, one of the things that Emily Cady says is a desire is spirit knocking at the door of your consciousness, trying to bestow a blessing. That really there is a value in having a desire for something, but I'm going to suggest to you what we have a tendency to do is confuse the idea of desire and the idea of want. And they're not quite the same thing, are they? We sometimes confuse the idea of desire and the idea of intention. And I would suggest to you that sometimes when we think about desire, we're really thinking about not having what it is that we want. Right? So we're caught up in the desire, and the energy that we're really working with really has to do with, oh, I wish, if only. Does that make sense? And we're caught up in that energy of, I wish, if only, and what are we putting our attention on? The not having. And so part of what I'm seeing in this and hearing in this is it's important for us to notice and pay attention to where we are focusing our intention and our desires. Whether that desire, that the energy of desire can somewhat be two-sided. It's valuable to have a desire expressed as an intention, meaning focused on this is the direction that I am moving toward, this is what I'm moving into, as opposed to focusing on what we don't have, where we're not. That make sense? So part of what we're learning here to do is acknowledge and give thanks in advance for what it is that we want to see and experience in our lives. Getting back to the energy and the attitude of gratitude. That to me is the real value of gratitude, that we are focusing our attention and our intention toward the good. That make sense? So this is really to me a real valuable part of the creative process for us to really explore and play with. I want to read to you a poem, a Hafiz poem. I'm loving the symbolism of the sun and the moon, so I've pulled out some poetry. The sun never says, even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, you owe me. Look what happens to a love like that. It lights the whole sky. So I think about this in relation to the understanding that the sun really represents an ongoing presence of illumination, and that is something that I think is always happening in us. And one of the things it talks about is that the moon is reflective of that. And so when we set our attention on something, it's important for us to notice the reflection of that, which is our will and our intention, our allowing. Are we actually allowing that which we desire in our experiences and in our being to come forth? Allowing is we talk about this in the Ask and It Is Given, and the Abraham work. They really emphasize this understanding of allowing as a way of moving out of our resistance to the creative process. I want to read to you here from Ask and It Is Given. We covered this actually in our last class, and it really spoke to me. But what about those who desire not to desire? We would describe the sensation of desire as a delicious awareness of new possibilities. Desire is a fresh, free feeling of anticipation, anticipating wonderful expansion. Now, for me, I'm kind of translating the idea of desire and correlating with the idea of intention. To me, there is a positive aspect of what we're talking about here that really has to do more with our intention. Let me go on to say, the feeling of desire is truly the feeling of life flowing through you. But many people, while they are using the word desire, feel something quite different. Desire for them often feels like yearning. For while they are focused upon something that they want to experience or have, they're equally aware of its absence. That's what we were just talking about. And so while they are using words of desire, they are offering vibrations of lack. They come to think that the feeling of desire is like wanting something that they do not have. But there is no feeling of lack in pure desire. So if you will keep in mind that whatever you ask, it is always given, then each of your desires will now be pure, non-resisted desire. And more people desire things that they are not currently living fully, and in some cases they have desired them for a long period of time. And so they think about the thing they desire, and then they think about not having it. In time, they come to believe that the way they feel as they think about what they want and realize they do not have it, but cannot figure out how to get it, is the way that desire feels. Anybody, do you understand what we're talking about here? Can you see the importance and the distinction between this idea, this understanding of desire and not having and the experience of having? So really, our intention is to experience the having, but even more than that, is to experience our being. And as I think about that, part of what they're talking about is moving into the energy that Abraham-Hicks talks about in terms of allowing. And this gets back to me what Eric is talking about in terms of the willingness. In the creative process, it's important for us to recognize that we are participating in that all the time, right? And that we are utilizing our faculty of faith to bring into our experiences those things that we're holding faith in. And we're imagining, we're using our imagination to visualize and to bring form to what it is that we are in the process of manifesting. And this is actually paying attention to, this is noticing what our focus is, what we're putting our energy into. One of the things that I love, I don't remember, one of my friends up in the Northwest used to quote, and I was trying to remember who he was quoting, but I didn't find it. But there's this idea, this understanding that what we appreciate appreciates. You familiar with that? I think it's the guy that developed the appreciative inquiry work. I mean, I've lost his name already. Yeah. Anyway, whatever we appreciate appreciates. And so when we move into this activity this week of giving thanks, recognize that we're not just doing this to have pumpkin pie. Pumpkin pie is great. It's not just to have turkey for those who eat turkey. But it really is about an energy and a consciousness that really moves us into a process and moves us to another level of processing that draws even more benefits and even more blessings into our experience. So as we're holding that energy of gratitude and thanksgiving, we are doing a couple of things. We're focusing our attention on the good, and we are setting our intention for even more of that good, and then we are in the process of actually allowing more of that good into our experience. So I want you to think about those three things as we celebrate our Thanksgiving in whatever way you celebrate that. And invite yourself to be conscious and aware of the attention that you're giving to different things in your life, and is that what you want to experience more of? Set an intention for what it is that you truly want to experience more of in your life. For me, I kind of go back to what Abraham-Hicks talks about, is that ultimately what we're really all focused on, what we really all want, and what really is a part of our nature is our well-being and the well-being of those around us. And so our intention ultimately is for the good, and to experience more of the good. And then the next step in that creative process, of course, is to be willing and to allow that good into our being. So let me give you a little, how many of you are allowing yourself to be prosperous? It isn't allowing, isn't it? How many of you are allowing yourself to be loved? Is there more that you could allow? Of course. How many of you are allowing yourself to be whole? Yeah. So practice that knowing and that willingness, that step into the experience of allowing the good that you are to come through you in life. And as you do that, you'll find that you realign yourself with that energy of the creative flow of life, and you are not only a blessing, and not only does a blessing come to you, it comes through you, and you experience even more of that blessing flowing out from you, out into life and out into your world. So have fun with that this week. Attention, intention, and allowing. 3 great things to play with. Have fun with it this week. Let's move into our meditation time. So let's move into a comfortable place as we open our hearts and minds to that creative process, that flow of spirit. Breathing in and out, we allow that presence to be in us, but to express in and through us. We move into that place of stillness, of quiet, where we can see and know and feel and experience that inner light. That inner light of divine inspiration. We move into an energy and a consciousness of gratitude. Gratitude for not just the blessings in our lives, but gratitude as an energy of attraction, even more good. Focusing our thoughts, our feelings on the blessings. Putting our attention in the love that's always available. Seeing the light even in those places that at times feel dark. Acknowledging and intending to align with that presence, that source, that power that is absolute benevolence, always available, always present, always willing to pour in and through us greater good of love, of peace, of possibilities. And as we breathe in and breathe out, we move into an energy of allowing ourselves to experience ourselves, not just as being blessed, but to experience our true nature as being a part of the blessing, to experience ourselves as a blessing to ourselves and to each other, to experience the truth of who we are as a blessing in this world. Giving thanks in that energy of allowing. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Blessed Spirit, that we are created and creating even greater good. Let's take this moment now in the silence of our being to feel that wonder and that joy and the gratitude for the creative process in the silence, in the silence. Take now a nice deep breath. Receive it. Let your heart and mind be filled with that breath as you breathe in and out. Let your heart and mind and whole being allow the presence to flow, just as you allow your breath to flow. Give thanks for that energy of spirit that is always actively creating, and give thanks for the ability to focus and set your intentions and to allow an even greater good to come into and through your being. Thank you, Blessed Spirit. Take another nice deep breath. Let your awareness be in this room, this time and place. Take another deep breath, and when you're ready, gently open your eyes and give thanks.